Good morning and welcome to the Capital Gang. The weather is kind of radio weather, but rain and traffic, not very good friends. We played Moses of the Morning Show. Is the one who played it. Is it Stevie Wonder?
Yes.
For the Love of Me?
For Your Love.
It's a good, For Your Love. A good one to start Capital Gang. So welcome to the Capital Gang. I am Oscar Semoyamsoke with a bevy of topics, as Moses Kaole would say. The studio is full already. We've had multiple discussions and we'll get into it. We have my long-lost friend, Godba Katushabe Tumushabe. You see, that's how far ago when we last spoke.
I know.
Yeah. So, Godba, what have you been up to?
Too many things, I think.
When I talked to Patricia about inviting you, she told me that you won't get him. He's a very rich, successful coffee farmer, and don't bother, you may not get him.
And I tried to balance so many things. Thanks very much, Oscar, for inviting me. Good evening, colleagues in the studio. Good morning. I have that show that where I normally do good evening.
It becomes ingrained.
And good morning, our listeners of Capital Gang. Great pleasure to be here. No, I've been really busy, I would say, without a doubt. Because I try to multitask on a number of things that I consider important. So as you said, I do farming. I run a company called Tara Eco Farms, which is a full value chain coffee operation based in Ntungamo district. I run a think tank called GLIS, Great Lakes Institute for Strategic Studies, where I'm basically full-time involved in research. We describe our business as generation and production of new knowledge and ideas. As you know, I also teach at the law school at Makerere. So I have dedicated time there where I teach. And then a couple of other things. I should mention that I'm very actively involved in political organizing, because I believe that as elites, as people who are educated, who are exposed, we have a responsibility to make sure that we actually organize and clean up the politics of this country, because I think we are a country that is operating in a totally broken political system that needs to be re-engineered and reorganized. Some of your gang members, I believe, they need to be helped because they are lost in the same system, and we need to be able to help them. So you can see that it's a full package, I would say. Yeah.
Well,
No. I always said the gains, the people, Dixon, the protecting the gains. People said there are those people who are protecting the gains, and those of us on this side who are absorbing the pain. So that's really the dichotomy that we are dealing with.
What an introduction! Thank you. Raymond Mujoni is in the studio as well. For you, what have you been up to? You've been away 3 months.
Yes,
I don't know. Have you been in Iran or Ukraine?
No, I was away. I was in a couple of countries doing very many different things, and then for the last month I was in Fort Portal, of course. I might be preparing myself for the future.
Part of Uncle the future. I have a lot of Uncle this morning. And is anything happening on the road? And someone told me with the bombing of Iran, I know roads are going to stall in Uganda because that's where we get bitumen from.
You know, I'm sure he's listening in. I pressured Alan Sempebwa and I told him I'm going to drive him on that road until he fixes it. So now what they've done is a routine upgrade. So the better part of the road has actually improved. We can see the contractor is mobilized and on site. The money for the contractor was also found somehow magically, thanks to the parliamentary teams. And we hope the road will be complete by June. That's what they told us. So things are getting better.
You do know that Alan Sempe was also a homeboy.
He is.
I grew up with his father in Kilembe.
Yes. Interesting. No, we
he hadn't told
mobilized.
you. He's a Kasese Kilembe boy.
He hadn't told me.
So he
But
has
I
every
threatened-
reason.
I threatened to drive him and Katumba Amala on the road until it's fixed. Because that's the
I'm
only
not so
way.
sure about Katumba Amala, but then we have a person new to gang, Mr. Tumusime Kakulu. We've had Kato here, and your recent exploits have included jail.
It's interesting to be part of this show. Good morning. Well, I've been in jail for just representing someone called Bobby Wine and the NUP.
You mean representing someone in jail?
No, I was arrested because I was trying to reach out to my client, and as well as it's our duty to reach out to our clients to find out information and see how to handle their cases. So I was arrested.
So you were involved
again.
in an illegal act of trying to visit his home.
Whether it is illegal, that one you will say. But for me as a lawyer, I have a duty to visit my clients to find out. I had taken papers for them to sign because we are going to court over the deployment of police at his home. Remember, in 2021, court issued an order that police should vacate his home. So we wanted to follow up with the court case. As I took on the affidavits for signing, I was arrested. I've just survived.
I mean, you didn't deliver. You just survived it.
Yeah.
But it means you didn't get them to sign anything.
Yeah, I did not because I was arrested at the gate.
Right. So that's a good way of collapsing a case.
No, I was arrested, by the way, and charged with being a common nuisance. I don't know when lawyers started to become common nuisances on their jobs. So I'm still
has that
reporting
case
on
been?
police bond.
Oh, it has not been dropped yet.
Yeah, I was reporting on police, I think from the 16th of February up to, I actually last reported yesterday.
Yeah.
So I'm still a common nuisance.
So do you intend to go back
Yeah, as
to get your document signed?
as a lawyer, it's my duty to do what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, and also
Because I
get
have
paid
to-
for it.
Yeah, I'm paid for it.
Yeah.
So I have to keep pushing
Okay.
for it until I get them signing my documents.
Honorable Dixon Kateshumbo is here. Katesh, you're most welcome. For you, what have you been up to? This election, I dare say, was a bit easier than the last one for you.
There is no election, which is. I'm very glad to be back, and
You received no insults on social media,
well,
no
yeah.
account hacking. It was just straightforward talk against your opponents.
all those were localized. Maybe that is the difference, but of course the tactics have changed, and I'm glad that we got a big landslide eventually, and I'm happy to still represent the people of Shema municipality.
Madam Speaker is here. Right Honorable Lydia Wanyoto. Before she says anything, Honorable Katesh, will you vote for her? This is a
Madam
yes or no
Speaker to
question. This is a yes or no question. This is not a
Yes or no.
politician's. So let me
I will
repeat it
not
so it's
vote- I
clear.
will not vote for her because she's not standing. I have not seen her being nominated, so
Right.
I can't vote for someone.
No, you'll
who is
make a
not
decision
nominated.
when you would
Because
find out
you
whether
know,
she's standing or not.
Oscar puts you in a corner of yes or no.
I know.
You know,
It was a yes
he's a teacher.
Yes.
So I'm sure he loves objectives.
Yes.
So,
A
but of course,
is yes. B is no.
Lydia is a
C is unsure.
Lydia is a respected colleague. She has been a member of SEC. And
Goodbye. You see,
back
I
in
tell him
Parliament.
use yes or no. Now he's using other words.
But for the speaker's race, I think we are following the party's guidance to give a chance
Okay.
to our two speakers.
The party is always right.
Continue.
So,
Yes, many times.
Madam soon-to-be Speaker Lydia Wanyoto.
Good morning to you, Oscar.
I'm sure you had Eid in Mbale, and people in Mbale were saying, please continue with your bid to be Speaker.
Good morning, Oscar, and to the colleagues in the gang, to our friends who are here for the first time. You're welcome. There's, even if it's cold outside, gang is beautiful because there's always a hot coffee. So enjoy. Oscar, of course, I bring you greetings from Mbale. And those I did not see yesterday at Eid in Imbala, I wish you a continued celebration of the Eid and Ramadan season. But I was there with the main celebrants of that day, and I bring you greetings. I also wish you a belated happy Eid. If there's some rice we can share, pilau, this after the gang, we always get gifts from here. From the colleagues on the gang, the last time Katesh was here, he said that I did mention that I was expressing interest for the office of the Speaker, and he wished me well. So
and you wrote to the chairman.
I wrote to the chairman,
and waiting for his reply.
It is sometime in May. So it is, and fortunately for us, for this particular position, we don't campaign. It's a deployment within. So I would like to let everybody know that it's a deployment within, and that the NRM will win. Because it's not personal that even Katesh can be deployed to be speaker. It's not personal, it's for the party.
Yes.
It's a party deployment. So it's not about campaigns. Even we may not reach a vote. We've only reached a vote in the caucus once or twice in the office of maybe the deputy speaker, where we have no option. The candidates are more or less the same, and we're like, let's be fair, and they go for the vote. But in many cases, we don't have a vote because consensus building. And everybody, I want us to maintain the spirit of saying NRA must win. These people who come to the system and begin telling us how they are more popular, how they are. Why aren't you independent? This is a party. A party is a deployment. And for Godiba, every time Godiba has seen my prospects or he has a big doubt in Thomas. I don't know why. you see for if you know even the Bible says that Jesus. That Jesus was not welcomed in his own home, or that the Muslims say that the Muhammad, his teachings were never welcomed back home. Godba is one of those. Whenever they mention my name, he's sarcastic. He's what? What is itching you? You know, this is our generation.
Thank you.
It is our time to stand out and say you can do this.
Okay.
And for you, and if for you not ready, you keep on the side, and for us we move on Katesh. Katesh, when the caucus comes out, and I think we are going to go to Chankwanzi from 7th around about. We'll be able to understand, because majority of our colleagues are also new. It's my first time to be in Parliament of Uganda,
April.
although I've been on the round, but I've not been a member of Parliament of Uganda. And that should tell something about me also. Because I'm not a new face, but I'm a new person in the Parliament of Uganda. But I've won an election there. I have contested and been voted twice by members of Parliament when I've never been a member of Parliament. So anybody wishing me away like this Kat Chavez, these Godibas, I think they are joking.
Yeah. So, they are not your voters. Thank you, Lydia.
No. Let me also say this, that the office of the Speaker is a very important national interest issue. Even if you are not a voter, member of Parliament, you voted these people to Parliament. It's very important that Ugandans pay interest to who is going to run the chambers of the Speaker. It should never be business and journey. And if you're not going to participate, then don't lament. That is my thing.
Thank you.
The time is now to sort
Let
this.
me thank Star Cafe
And
as
for me, Oscar, finally, it's not personal. Me, I was asked by people of Bumbale to come and contest. And I'm presenting my papers.
Madam,
and when we
to
go
speaker,
to the caucus,
thank you. When you're in that house, when you say
we'll
thank
agree
you,
on how we move forward.
Go quiet.
Thank you. You asked me.
Yeah,
now don't stop me.
And then when I've stopped you, you go quiet.
You're the one who asked me, so don't now start shutting me down.
Star Cafe. Katesh, you don't have right of reply. So let me first thank Star Cafe. and goodbye, you have no right of reply. This is the speaker of his table, so no right of reply. So, Kakuru, just to let you know, just to let Kakuru know, the Star Cafe is fine here. You don't need to carry a chapati in your pocket.
I'm enjoying my coffee right now.
So enjoy. Thank you, Star Cafe. Enjoy fully. Even Katesh eats fully here, so we are good. And goodbye. You start us off on the Computer Misuse Act. being, I don't know what words to use, being made null and void? Because the other one, the second topic of the day, also affects you. But let's start with this one. Is it, if I frame it as is now null and void, is that a correct framing?
Yeah, I think allow me put this record straight because it's important for me, especially with Lydia, because of how far we go. I think I made a comment on one of the WhatsApp groups, which was really almost a side show, and I think Lydia probably interpreted it as.
I'll allow you one comment, and that's it.
No, I was basically saying that for me as a Ugandan, if someone like Lydia was to be speaker, that would be my biggest relief. Because if there is anything I would want in this country now, is to have that parliament without Anita Monga. That one I have to be very categorical. So probably any other person other than Anita Monga would be happy, because we've had the tenure of Anita Monga. We've seen what she has done. We have seen how she has reduced parliament to almost an organ of NRM. And so if these MPs, the Kateshis and whatever, could even ignore this sick business and liberate that parliament from this speaker, I think that would be very important. So I just want to put that record straight.
The parameters are very wide.
So
okay. Yeah, but you see, for the Godbars express opinions and
Godbar return to.
But essentially, on the Computer Misuse Act, that's basically the effect of the law, of the judgment, that the law as was enacted is basically violates or contradicts many provisions of the Constitution, and I think in principle, enacting laws that protects privacy, that protects public safety, that protects the rights of Uganda, they are important. As a matter of principle, these are important. The problem with us as a country is that since around 2006, there has been enactment of many pieces of legislation that you would characterize or put into the category of anti-civil liberties legislation. So these are anti-civil liberties laws. While the subject matter of legislation is important, the current government or the current regime takes an approach of basically criminalizing what would ordinarily be civil liberties. And so these laws, you'll see them anti-terrorism. It's good to have a law against terrorism, but then you can have that law and weaponize it against citizens. The media legislation, laws on journalists, on media, they get weaponized. The NGO legislation, you get laws that are governing NGOs. Instead of actually promoting the practice of NGOs, people who work in this space, you are basically creating prohibitions around them. So you can go on and on. So the Computer Misuse Act basically fell within the same category. That while it is good to have laws that regulate the use of electronic media, and therefore you are protecting citizens. The laws that are that actually add value, that they enable use, they provide the incentives for appropriate use of such pieces of legislation or such a technology. They create this incentive, but then you don't just criminalize each and everything. And I think that's what the Computer Misuse Act did. Even when the law came out, actually, we basically mentioned the same thing, that this law cannot withstand the scrutiny of the judicial system if it is properly tested against the principles of liberty, of freedom that are enshrined under the Constitution. And really, I think we need to congratulate the judges that because this is one of those oppressive laws that have been on the statute book. There are many of these laws, and we can go into a list of all of them. But it's sometimes a breath of fresh air when you see the judges coming out and in very, very well-reasoned judgments explaining why such a law does not stand the test of the constitutional liberties and freedoms that are enshrined in the 1995 Constitution. Yeah.
And Kakuru, can you list a few people that have been caught out in this computer misuse? There are others who've served the sentence as well. Our third topic today is Morocco, who are now champions. So the people who've already served a conviction of computer misuse, I don't know if CAF can also come and bail them out.
Well, I don't know how CAF reached that decision. I'm a great sports supporter. I'm a football lover. I don't know how CAF reached that, but they cheated Senegal. Well, for the people that have already served the sentences, that one the law cannot act retrospective, so they have to suffer that. But
can the conviction be withdrawn?
So no.
Oh.
Because they were convicted when the law was still in existence, so they have to serve the sentences.
So to remove a conviction, you go back to court and say declare this.
Maybe if they were trying to appeal or what, but if they had not, then there is nothing to do for them. They have to suffer.
Wow.
We still have people.
So it's on their record that you are a convict.
Yes, they are convicted,
and you cannot stand for misuse. Parliament because you are.
That one reaches when they want to stand for. But we have people like Marema Bilizi, the famous lawyer, who has been on remand. I also have a client of mine. It's called Ibrahim Sana. I don't know whether you know that boy called Pressure 24/7. He's been my client. I've rescued him actually several times from court. But the problem is that this Computer Misuse Act, I think the MPs made it, especially the Honorable Muhammad Nseleko, made it with a lot of anger. He did not look at what it might implicate or the effects of the same. He personalized it. Yeah, he personalized it. Well, I don't support people who abuse their colleagues on media. I don't support it. It's bad, but the MPs ought to have taken time to look at what actually the law should be. Not because in Senegal the Honorable was abused on media, so he brings in things that are so ambiguous and vague. Because Oscar, if I find you on the streets of Kampala doing something, maybe throwing out rubbish on the road, I take your photo, I share it, I would be making the public aware of what is happening. But this amendment was meant to criminalize me for sharing your photo without your consent. So if I find a thief stealing, I shouldn't take their photo and share it because it would be against the law. But I appreciate the decision of the Constitutional Court that it actually confirmed that we, the citizens, have rights to express ourselves in a way we think. But it shouldn't be with abuse. It shouldn't be with, malice or what. But if, Oscar, I say that you are a thief, it's you to tell me, no, I'm not a thief, I've never stolen. For me, I would say that, no, from what I've seen... And
I can sue you for libel.
Yeah.
That one is already there.
But you see, even that section cleared the criminal libel or defamation. That is, that is section 162 and 63. Because... for one to say I'm committing a libel or I'm defaming you, the statements I'm saying must not be true. But for me, I cannot verify whether they are true or not until you yourself comes out to clear it. For example, if I say the Honorable Kateshe and the colleagues are playing around with our parliamentary money,
which they are doing,
actually, they should be able to come out to tell us that no,
so we are not playing.
Yeah, that no, we the parliamentarians are not playing with our money.
Yeah.
But for me, I would have said what I think. So it's them to defend themselves. If they do not, then it means I'm clear on what I'm saying. So the Computer Misuse Act, the amendment.
But we don't want you to be a nuisance, just coming up and saying everything you wish to say.
Yeah, but I don't know
you
what
need some. I mean, even in the media, you need some evidence. You need some backing.
Yeah. So the backing I have is that Parliament is misusing our money. I have that fact, so I can speak it. Until the honorables come out and say that, no, we are not misusing, we are using it well.
Or you can even prove it.
Yes. For example, I don't know how long our parliamentary building has lasted before it's completed. It's, I think, coming to a third term. And we have paid a lot of money. So when I say they are misusing our money in parliament, especially the speaker and the colleagues, they should be able to come out and say, no, we are not misusing it, but we are using it in this way and way. So our right to expression and freedom of speech ought to be something that can help us maybe clarify from the people above.
Okay. Raymond Mujoni, the Kakuru here, Tumsime, is right that many laws are passed and then eventually they catch politicians out. So this Computer Misuse Act, again, it's not far from, I don't remember which one was the Amama Mbabazi one.
Oh, that's the second.
Yes, and eventually it came back to himself. So it is pleasing that this one has been made null and void. Did it require a judge to be brave?
Oscar,
could a Canada judge also put it down?
To first put the record straight, I am one of the petitioners under the Uganda Editors Guild in the matter.
So we should say congratulations to you.
Yes, we welcome the decision of the court, though we don't appreciate the fact that the court didn't in fact deal with the issues, the substantive issues. So the court decided to strike out those sections because the parliament had no quorum when they passed them.
Oh.
Yeah. But what we had anticipated...
On a technicality.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh.
What we had anticipated the court to do is to pronounce itself really on free speech. Justice Mulenga had been the first to get the Constitutional Court to pronounce itself on what free speech is. And the threshold has always been that you can say anything that's truthful in a free, fair, and democratic society. And it must be demonstrably justifiable that what you're saying is truthful. But that ruling came at a time when there was traditional media. That traditional media had editors. The editors would, if you say Parliament is stealing money and it comes to me as an editor, I would call Katesh before I put out that kind of information. And if he clarified that Parliament wasn't stealing money, then there may not be a story, or there would be a different kind of story. Over time, there has been a democracy of publication. Everyone with a gadget is now a publisher. And that democracy has come with almost no responsibility on the part of publishers. The kind of responsibility required of journalists and editors is not required of social media users. So maybe there was some good faith actually on the part of Muhammad Nsereko when he sought to bring some of these amendments. But the good faith had also other intentions that came with it. The first was that there were sections of the law which were very ambiguous. Part of that ambiguity was, what is unauthorized recording of videos? If I put out a video in the Capital Gang right now, and Oscar says I didn't authorize you to record that video, does that then mean that that video becomes unauthorized? But there's also the bigger question of public accountability. If you're a public official, can you justifiably claim that a video of you is unauthorized, or that the Editors Guild had sought some clarity on that matter, and we had thought that the Constitutional Court would make itself a pronouncement, because those pronouncements are good for the future, for us to fall back to. But also it would have been nice for the Constitutional Court to arbitrate this exchange that we're seeing online. Are there any responsibilities that fall to people who publish online? And if there are responsibilities that fall, are those responsibilities criminal or civil in nature? And the Editors Guild in that debate insists that they should be civil in nature. There should be ramifications for saying falsehoods. On that one, I think we disagree with our friends on social media. We think there should be ramifications, but those should be civil. If I abuse Oscar and Oscar is unhappy about the fact that I've abused him, Oscar should be able to go to a court of law and have a civil matter started.
You know, with that name, Oscar, you only give examples of good examples, positive things.
Yes, but so we welcome the ruling, because then it together with it also it helped us solve a matter within the media we've had over a long period of time, which is criminal libel. So it's also kicked out criminal libel. But the Constitutional Court has made no substantive declaration on a lot of issues. And I just predict that we will be back before the court in a very short time to try and understand what constitutes annoying people, what constitutes unauthorized recording of information.
Since the term of parliament has not ended, Senegal can bring another law.
No. It would be unfortunate.
Yeah.
But also, Oscar, I mean, in the healthy, we need to appreciate as a society that we need to have a healthy amount of debate.
Absolutely.
We are a very ethnically diverse community. What constitutes good manners in Toro may not constitute good manners in Ankole. What constitutes bad manners in Ankole might not be bad manners in Toro. So when we come to a square, which might be social media or the radio, how do we arbitrate those matters? And I think that's what the Constitutional Court has denied us of. I hope that our parliamentarians can go back in good faith and make an arbitration on this matter so that we know where the law stands on the matter.
Yeah.
The
BMK gift, our regular listener, never has kind words for Katesh. Says, tell Godba that Katesh is Anita's boy and will do anything to make sure that he serves the speaker. Anything BMK will come back. And
I promised to protect Katesh at the start of the show.
Actually, I did not consider Dixon in that group because I know the group.
You know the group.
I know the group, but I didn't know
BMK,
Dixon was part of the group.
BMK does not like Katesh much, but you know Katesh, if possible, if you maybe didn't have forethought or a thick skin, you would have joined the people who want the Computer Misuse Act to stay, because you suffered a lot from it.
Well, first of all, I think you can see even from your the first message you read, because this act, and we respect court because they faulted Parliament on matters of procedure, which is something for Parliament to reflect on. But like Raymond has said, the substantive matters were not dealt with. And for me, Ugandans need to know that the era we are in is not the era of 20 years ago of responsible journalism. There is now a lot of activism online. There is a lot of malicious publications. And my brother here said something very interesting. You know, you tell a malicious lie and then you want someone to go on the defensive. You know, that's how our society, that's where we are going. That I abuse Oscar.
We said that one used positives.
Okay.
You abuse someone.
Someone else.
Kakuru.
And publish Kakuru that he has collapsed and he's been taken in an ambulance. And then the whole day, Kakuru uses his productive time to be on the defensive. This is ridiculous. Our society must know that our productive time cannot be, expensed on a lot of unnecessary, activities. This law is not the first time that a law of this nature is being enacted. Singapore in 1993 has a Computer Misuse Act. German has a Computer Misuse Act, and there are serious penalties. Even the UK, now we have very many countries which are actually broadening, tackling social media: Portugal, Malaysia, Norway, Italy, etc.
Australia.
Australia.
But bear in mind
Now-
what Raymond has told you. Some of
Yes.
these computer misuse acts,
Yes.
were created when newspapers were powerful.
Yes, but they have been amended over the years because, for example, and I agree with the court where they said that some of the provisions were overbroad, vague, and ambitious. So it is the responsibility of Parliament to, in good faith, look at those provisions, and this law will come back. There is no doubt. So those who are celebrating, I think the best thing would be, and I appreciate the pragmatism from Raymond because he's one of petitioners, but he understands that we actually need some protection laws against misuse, and so the discussion should be on how do we balance, if we are to reintroduce this law, because I don't think there is going to be any appeal. You cannot appeal on the procedure of quorum. If there was no quorum, there is no quorum. So the best thing is to go back on the drawing board as Parliament and government and probably engage these petitioners to say, okay, how do we remove the ambiguity? For example, there are sections sending malicious information, recording of individuals without consent, unauthorized transmission or sharing information about a child. You see, you go and get my daughter because you don't like me, you go and record her at school, and then you publish it, which can actually cause harm's way to someone who is not a party to perhaps a conflict. There is an issue of interception of communication. These Godbars have always complained that, and this Kakuru, that we are always you are listening. This is meant to protect you, So you are celebrating, but I think until you are a victim of this, I know in the last election someone went on Facebook and pronounced me dead. And the whole day I had to spend time defending myself. Is that what the most important activity I needed to do? Exactly. Isn't that taking away my productive time? So I think those who are celebrating,
in some ways, you're not being fair. Isn't this what the regime does these days? They arrest Kakuru here on a frivolous charge, and now he has to spend all his productive time reporting.
I thought we are discussing computer misuse.
Because
if he was arrested for common nuisance, I don't know what he was doing. The circumstances.
He has explained.
You may have appeared not as a lawyer.
But Katesh, we are discussing.
Did you have an engagement letter introducing you to police?
Katesh,
You could
they are
have
all connected.
appeared as a common nuisance.
If you discuss, say, you use up people's productive time,
Yes.
then you also have to be equally broad and say it is not correct.
Yes, then we have to go into those laws and see where the lacuna is. I don't agree that a lawyer who is going to represent a client should be arrested. The only problem is sometimes some of these lawyers these days, their presentation and demeanor, they first appear as activists, then turn into lawyers. So I don't know the state in which this gentleman appeared with police.
But Dixon,
whether
someone
but what I don't agree with is
even
for
Dixon,
you.
someone can look at you on the campaign, especially today's politicians, and presume you did. Because of the way politicians also behave.
My point is the civil society should help us. Where you find there are laws where we need to make amendments. This is what we should be looking at. But for us to celebrate and say this has been quashed, there are a lot of provisions which were meant to protect society and our people. Unfortunately, the technicality has knocked it out, but this is not the end. But I think the review of it, perhaps the 12th Parliament will bring it back.
So Sally Magezi on X, formerly Twitter, says, tell Dixon, tell Katesh that China has very stringent anti-corruption laws. Should we copy and paste? Then another one, Mahomeza, says, but ask Katesh where the CDF will be arrested and arraigned in court because he's the worst offender.
Computer misuse actually is one.
But that one you don't need to reply to. You don't need to respond to any of those.
We have 5 people.
But since the campaigns are over,
we have 5 people in the gang. I don't know why all the fire is directed. why all the questions
You have
are
responded
directed.
as a true
Because
politician.
my view is that yes, we welcome the court ruling.
Yeah.
We appreciate the fault that they found Parliament in. If we did not have quorum, it is a point of reflection. Okay? But we have to reintroduce this law with clarity. And I think those who petition should be proactive and magnanimous to come forward and say, look, this is where maybe we should. But
Raymond has said so.
the journalism of these days, everybody gets a computer and gets online. And we have...
But that's, we had Susan Sibira here last week, the MD of Monitor, and she said, no, that's not journalism. And in fact, in newspapers now, they've given up on breaking news.
Yes,
so
because
but what they do is you get a story, maybe it's broken on news, then they go into the detail whether if it's worth it, as Raymond had said earlier.
Yeah, that is what is happening. There is a lot of unregulated publication.
Not journalism.
Because when you look at I have seen people during campaigns, Shema there, who have put on press jackets. They have studied journalism in some universities and institutes. I don't know whether we have an equivalent of law society for the media.
Yeah.
And if it is,
it is headed by a lawyer as well.
The Media Council.
Yeah.
We have a problem on that, and it's a parliamentary problem actually, because
every problem is parliamentary.
The Act creates a professional body, but that professional body doesn't have regulations now for its enforcement. So we are waiting for Parliament for the regulation. The minister actually needs to table the regulation.
Let's go to Lydia. Lydia is going to Star Cafe as we come to her.
I'm still celebrating Easter, I mean, Eid. The appetite has opened, so we have to eat.
You've been lucky, Lydia. You've not personally suffered from what?
I've been a victim of computer misuse because I have a hard screen. You should go to social media and see. But like my colleagues have said, I'm a very good scholar of procedure. That's why even in my own party, I'm talking about procedures, which people like Katesh don't want to hear. But we need to learn that procedure is good for us. So if there was no quorum, then there is no reason for debate. There is a reason why in the rules of procedure of Parliament, quorum is important. Because you legislate for the country. You don't legislate for the sake of it. So we need to go back and do it right. Do we need a law or regulations on computer misuse? Like it is said, yes, we need. Maybe not to write a new law, but maybe to improve on what we call maybe defamation, because we already have an act of parliament or laws of Uganda that deals with defamation. What are you trying to correct is being unfair to somebody, imputing negative motives against an individual. I think that is the bottom line. So if you have laws in Uganda that are addressing that, the object is about misrepresentation about me, or the intention is to paint me in bad light to the public, that should be the object of the laws of misuse. And if there are laws in Uganda, like the one on defamation or whatever, we can improve on that, or we broaden or bring a law that is in line with that, but do it in a procedural manner. There must be quorum. Katesh, is it 45 days? There must be broad consultations. You don't bring a law, a bill in the morning. I saw Godiba saying that actually you can do it in this term because you have like 2 months. That's when you waiver the rules. You put aside. Please, let's learn to live within the rules. You say now someone moves a motion to waiver the rules. And then you pass something that is going to affect affects millions of people. So let's do things right. There's a reason why, even in a family, Katesh, you're a father, and I'm even happy to say this, but you're a father of girls. Girls. But in your home, I'm sure there's unwritten laws. You are daddy. In some of our homes, the father has a specific table, a seat. my late husband had a corner and he was a football fan. You do never turn off the TV when it's time for football.
Yes.
So these things are there. So we don't have to reinvent the wheels.
Katesh will even tell you that since the father of girls, there are even rules of entry.
So why do you want to? Why do you want to? Because if you don't want to work within procedure and rules, then you are preparing for anarchy. There are big-headed Ugandans around town. Even when there are good laws, there are those who want to break them. Now, what about the bad ones? Because this country has very big-headed people. Sometimes I think I'm one of them. But now, if you don't want to,
So we need the Computer Misuse Act.
yes, so we need laws to govern us, because we are 45 or so million people. We want order in our country. We want lawfulness in the country. The moment you waver off the rules or guidelines, you are creating anarchy. Oscar. So I agree with Katesh. Yes, we need to go back. If you want, actually, you can do it in the 11th Parliament. It's still running. But if you need the time, the 12th Parliament has 5 years. But let's do the broad consultations.
You do it even before you change the speaker.
Get the right get the right stakeholders. Listen to people, so that it is in the interest of the public good, of the wider. And not out of anger. There is no space for anger in legislation, because laws are supposed to be blind. That's the principle of law.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be angry to pass a law. No, that's dictatorship, because that's just abuse of space. Yeah. Because God has given you space to legislate, then you abuse it. So I really think that, you have numbers. Why would 529 members of parliament be on the wrong side? We should be on the right side, because it's a big representative number to do right against wrong, to give a bigger picture of what the country needs. So for me, Oscar, I would not go even into the details of the law if it was passed without quorum. Me, I'm a procedure scholar, and I really think we need laws
Oscar, sometimes
that govern us.
So objective.
Good, but hold on, because I'm going to ask you to close out this.
But, Oscar, just a quick one. I think that perhaps the fault may not be that members of parliament did not attend. I think the issue is, how did we present evidence that there was quorum or no quorum? It is an issue of whether maybe the speaker should have done a roll call, but it's not that how can the 500 plus members not have quorum? Because that
I would dare say, I would dare say the fault was not what you've described. It was a member of the opposition presenting a bill, and people may have viewed it on a personal matter. So that is the bigger fault.
This was widely supported across all party lines.
House passed the bill.
Yes. So for me, what I want to remove is that the parliament members were not there.
So by the whole house passing the bill, some people decided to abstain. Perhaps
discussing this on the account of their rules.
it is, but Godba, you close out this topic.
It was
just going to add that sometimes Lydia is so objective that you forget that she is even a very senior leader in NRM. Because normally
they are not objective.
The traditional NRM people, they are supposed to defend NRM even when it's right or wrong. No, but essentially.
But Lydia, it's true. If there's no quorum, it's an NRM, because NRM, without needing opposition,
they can constitute quorum.
Yes.
Yeah, quorum. But I think
you see now, come here and tell us how the bench is NRM. Now the same judges have told you that we should do it right. So sometimes you have to give it to the people or to the institutions. So suddenly these justices are not NRM cadres, because that is the narrative.
You can't be. Yeah, you can't.
Is that the narrative?
You can't be sure.
Isn't that the narrative about the bench?
These friends here
would say these are judges. These are cadre judges.
Judges are cadres, but some of them are.
So not all NRM politicians like myself do not look at the rule of law or what is right and what is wrong. We are there.
We are there,
but sometimes we move the majority
It's just
I'm
because
happy
we
that
don't have
Lydia,
time.
you are changing
No.
this
Leader,
hour.
because we don't have time. But according to the description, explanation by Raymond here, a cadre judge would throw out something like that without going into the detail. But good back. Close out.
Now I was going to say that incidentally, the Computer Misuse Act is not one of those pieces of legislation you would characterize as a regime survival legislation, because it has a different it has a different character, where it either positively affects certain people and negatively affects others in a bipartisan manner. So, in other words, the concept of cadre judges may not apply in real time as far as the Computer Misuse Act is concerned. But I think what we need to emphasize, and especially for people like Dixon and Lydia, who would be in Parliament and reconsidering it, is that the comparisons you made, Dixon, about these other countries with their Computer Misuse Acts, is that actually all these laws exist in almost all countries. The difference is normally in the character and the spirit of the legislation. And I think I would even encourage Ugandan legislators to study the Ghanaian laws, because for me that's the best comparison. So for every law that is anti-civil liberty in Uganda, there is an equivalent Ghanaian legislation. So when you study these two side by side, you look at the character of the legislation, you look at the spirit. So while the Ghanaian legislation is enabling, the Ugandan legislation is prohibitive. So in other words, and I say this because I was looking at the media legislation. So I was quite pleasantly surprised that in Ghana, when they say the public has a right of access to information, the journalists have a right of access to information. The legislation is that public officials must provide information to journalists. And if they don't, these are the consequences. Now, in Uganda, they say public officials, you cannot provide information unless you have done the following. So you can see they are the same pieces of legislation, but with a different posture. And I think that's so. And for Uganda, I've been very consistent that most of those laws that are civil liberties that have been enacted around from 2006, they have been laws that enable regime survival. This life presidency of Museveni, all those laws, because even by the way, if you look at the Computer Misuse Act, and I think Kakuru you should look at these cases. Who have been charged and who are the complainants?
The complainant is
it's either Muhoozi or Museveni
or the speaker.
Yeah, exactly. So in other words, for me as a Ugandan, Kakuru can go there and post his things. If you say Godba is the thief, if I am not a thief, I will not worry about you. Yeah. Why should I be bothered that you are there, redundant, saying I'm a thief? So I think that these laws that have been enacted, they are basically they are for enabling authoritarianism. Let me put it that way in the broad sense.
Thank you. We're going for a break. Just two tweets here. There's Omunyokol. Says in 2022, Raymond, in response to Honorable Nsereko, wrote, the political elite must start realize the right to offend, and their taking offense are part of the process of the freedom of expression, which they enjoy in protected spaces and with power. Then Kenneth Biona, regular listener, says Lydia has objectively conceded that she's big-headed, even procedurally. She defies the moderator of a capital gang when it's not her time to speak. We stop for a quick break. Welcome back from the break. This is the capital gang. Peter Guayaka Magela says, at Semoyamsoke, please note that we still have a Computer Misuse Act in Uganda. What was annulled was the amendment that was brought by Honorable Nsereko. So Katesh's claim that we need the law has no basis, because we actually have the law. And Raymond, you're saying it's not?
No, I'm saying sections of it actually.
Yeah,
the ones that were struck out. 11, 23, 26, 27, 28 and 29. Yes. Because of the lack of quorum.
Right. So let's go to you, Godba, because from what I recall, there are places you've worked whose accounts were frozen a while ago. So it's not a new habit. How does the FIA go about freezing an NGO's account? And are there other accounts that have been frozen by the FIA rather than courts?
I think we need to bring those guys here and they explain, because I know in most cases they can't explain. But you see, I think this issue of freezing bank accounts, and on the NGO bureau side of cancelling permits of organizations, you have to frame it in the broader context of governance. So these are not isolated actions that are responding to some specific threats. When regimes, whether it is the one in Uganda or elsewhere, when they are becoming authoritarian, they have stayed for long. One of the tools that they use, or one of the major things they do, is to do what I call demobilization of citizens' institutions. Because as citizens, the Constitution declares power belongs to the people. We are the sovereign. In this country, the citizens are the sovereign authority. So that's why we declare the power belongs to us. That power is exercised either through effective, functional, and democratic state institutions, and institutions that are accountable. On the other side, the sovereignty of the citizens is expressed through collective action. Me and you as an individual, we have limitations on how you can exercise your sovereignty, but we organize ourselves into citizens' formations. So the people who are engaged in active politics, they form themselves into political parties. People who are educated like us, you form yourselves into professional associations. So you have a journalist association, you have a law society, association of engineers, of doctors, and everything. People who are engaged in economic activity organize themselves into economic formations like cooperatives. Those who like culture, like Oscar, and in this particular case, they will organize themselves into traditional institutions or cultural institutions. So the point I'm trying to make is that these are organized citizens' formations, and that's what nurtures and makes a democracy thrive. So there are those citizens who may not even have affiliations. So, or they have certain agendas, they have certain interests. So there are those of us who form NGOs, we form think tanks, because these are platforms through which we express our citizenship and civic expression. So these are formations. So when regimes are becoming authoritarian, they do two things. One is that they demobilize and co-opt institutions of state. So that's why you find that an institution like Parliament operates like an arm of NRM. An institution like the army, the police, the intelligence, they all become agents of the regime. On this other citizens' side, the regime then focuses on demobilizing institutions of citizenship. So what you've seen over there, and I think this is like from around 2008, there has been a very deliberate and orchestrated process by the regime to demobilize NGOs, or people who are organized as NGOs. The first effort was through break-ins into NGO offices. Between around 2010 to around 2015, there are documented approximately 29 break-ins into NGO offices, including those NGOs that had CCTV surveillance systems, and these NGOs would carry all their recordings to police, and there would be no investigations. The break-ins ended when the NGO leaders met with the Kareki, who were around, I think, 2015, and said, "Man, what's up?" Then the break-ins ended. But from there, then they went for the NGOs. Now they took a more aggressive approach. You remember that the first most aggressive action was in 2017, following the Tojiko-Atako debate, the amendment of the constitution. So that's when the Ugandan security raided our organization, Greece, Action Aid, the Uhuru Institute, and I think there was a fourth organization. They are raided and their accounts frozen. And you're asking, so what is the problem? From the informal interactions, the problem is that the regime people think that money is coming through these organizations, probably to destabilize. So that's what they do. And so you ask, but what exactly was the problem? And so for FIA, I should mention that I just had a meeting with the FIA people, and I was telling them, I said, so an organization like Greece, which to my recollection has not received the money on our accounts since 2020 to 2026, and you are saying, you explain to me all the money you received. I'm like, so where do you get, what is the basis for your action? How do you ask me to explain all transactions on my bank accounts for that period? So for both Financial Intelligence Authority and the NGO Bureau, in fact, I have to defend them. They are doing things they don't understand. They have been weaponized against Ugandans. And maybe if I can end with this point, for you see, these organizations, these are state agencies. These are self-spirited, in many cases, professional public servants. They are trying to also survive and do their work, but there is the oppressor behind them who cannot show their face, and they are basically. They are the ones who are weaponizing these institutions. So my argument has been that these institutions, like FIA and NGO Bureau, they need to move away from becoming the screen. Because for me, as a citizen who is law-abiding, I need to face the oppressor in his eyes and say, this is the guy. As a way of conclusion, if it is money laundering, because it's either money laundering, it's the letters that were written in this recent freezing. They were very funny. The NGO Bureau wrote and said, we have gotten intelligence reports that you are engaged in subversive activities. I think that's silly, to say the least, because if someone is engaged in subversion, that's high crime against our country. The starting point for you is to go and arrest these Godbas and the Kakurus and say you are engaged in subversion. But to start and say you've started an organization, an organization as a corporate entity cannot engage in subversion. It has to be the individuals. So I don't understand why the regime people fear to basically confront the people that they have issues with and deal with them. But anyway, I know that authoritarian regimes normally their biggest fear is the people. They don't fear anything. They fear people, and that's what is expressed in these. They are disruptive. You go and get these small organizations, then you are freezing accounts. Then it becomes international bad PR for us, and you ask yourself, why would the serious government want to be able to really engage in this kind of mediocre kind of work?
Raymond.
Again, on this matter, I am unfortunately affected. I'm a direct side one of, so some of this might end up as part of a legal endeavor. So I might not want to deal with specific details, but maybe on the ideological, and this is what I've noticed. I wouldn't want to use Godba's language of regime, because even where we have periodic changes of government like Kenya, we've seen the locking of accounts happening. In Tanzania, same story. you have periodic changes of government, but you still have a conflict between civil liberties and state authority. Oscar, in the history, when the World War ended, there was an idea that more democratic countries will not fight each other. So the countries that won the World War insisted that countries must democratize as an incentive to deter countries from going to war. But there were two approaches to it. There are people who thought that we could promote democracy, which is to work with people who we think are like-minded to promote democracy. And there are other people who felt, we can be minimalist. We can be democratic as a people, and people will want to adapt our culture. I think you see it a lot with Buganda. Buganda doesn't express its culture over you. They express the culture by themselves with the hope that you will love it and join it. Now, unfortunately, under democracy promotion is where the crisis is emerging now. Many states feel that Democrats or people who are liberal working with each other are engaged in destabilizing government or taking over government, which I think is, and unfortunately the conflict has become structural now. The more democratic that people wish for Uganda to become, the more autocratic that state institutions equally become. And we are going to need an adult in the room. I don't know where the adult is going to come from, but we're going to need an adult in the room. Because Uganda it's an ethnically diverse community. You cannot rule it using authoritarian means. Uganda has young people like myself. We've grown up under a democratic institution. We don't know civil war. Neither do we know an undemocratic time. We don't know coup d'etats. We've not experienced them. So for us, all we've known is democracy. So if and when someone chooses to wish away that democracy, there's going to be a question for us to ask, what new thing are you introducing that we need to deal with? But equally, I wanted to encourage our friends in FIA and NGO board, and by extension the security services. The perception of civil society as destabilizers of government is actually unfortunate. There are civil society organizations in the world which have had bigger impact than states. An NGO like BRAC, born in Bangladesh, has taken more people out of poverty than entire countries have done. Some of the organizations we've closed, like Greece, have done some tremendous research on political society, on the art of government, on oil and oil management. In fact, government is a beneficiary of this research. Some of the oil management laws we have today have come out of NGOs. So I think an adult in the room needs to arise, and the adult needs to be able to understand this conflict and stop it from becoming structural. Because if you increasingly make it structural, you're sending the signal that you don't want civil society. Once that signal is sent out there, then you won't have traditional elites mobilizing within civil society. And then you don't have strong institutions to be able to fight things like corruption. You can't fight corruption using only state institutions. You need civil society. You need people who are engaged in the affairs of their government. Things like building roads that government wants to do, you want people to engage in PDM. But you don't have the reach that civil society might have. Churches, for example, have such a great reach. They are going to take, today, churches are talking to Christians. Yesterday, mosques were talking to Muslims. They have traditional reach that government doesn't have. But they also offer you legitimacy. If we are hit by a pandemic tomorrow, you're going to be asking the same people to say, can you tell people to stay at their home? You need that legitimacy. So I think for me, the conflict is becoming structural, and it's unhealthy, actually. Both for the state, because the state is now going to use a lot more money to be able to curtail civil liberties, but also for civil society, because then now there's no advancement in civil liberties and there's no advancement in society. And we're a very young society, we're very creative. If you don't provide an environment where that can happen, then unfortunately we will end up in a bad place. And I am saying all this well aware there's a SEC member within us.
Former SEC member.
Yes, I'm sure she's a few phone calls away from convening the NRM SEC, because unlike other people, I don't believe I don't believe that the NRM has nothing to do with this. You are the ones in government, so you have the authority of government until another person assumes the authority of government. So you can see when matters are contentious, Lydia sends us away.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have Joe saying here, I think Godba must stop being arrogant, thinking he's the only one who can explain stuff, that FIA can explain. The FIA can explain their stuff as well. So, Kakuru, on FIA and accounts frozen.
Yeah, I think the FIA has deliberately maybe miscalculated this, because you cannot just close accounts of NGOs without fact-finding. Actually, they are saying that our colleagues, the Greece and Agora, received about 70 billion. I'm surprised my uncle Godba has never called me to give me a penny.
and his behavior does not. His behavior does not denote 70 billion.
I'm not looking at anything.
70 billion is visible.
Actually, I'm surprised that with the 70 billion he's still broke. Like I know. Yeah. But the FIA ought to have first of all made investigations to find out what is this. But to me, I think the FIA has just closed on orders, not by investigating. Because even if these NGOs were involved in subversive activities, it's not the NGOs themselves, it's the people, the Godbars. So, and it is a very serious offense to engage in subversive actions. Actually, by now, if the FIA was so clear on what they are saying, these people should be in police or court. Yeah. But without anything, and without any explanation, the FIA closes accounts. So just imagine how many people are going to suffer because the accounts of these NGOs are closed. How many people have been employed in these NGOs. For example, Agora has been much into activities of helping out human rights activists and the rest. So with the closing of their accounts, actually Agora told, I was speaking to one of the Agora people. He told me that their accounts were closed even before January. So they are now making it official.
It's a belated.
Yeah. They are making it official that they have closed, but Agora told us that their Stanbic accounts were not working from January. But the threat is that they fear a lot of people who are against them. You know, when I criticize the Honorable Katesh, it's not that I'm his enemy, but I'm trying to tell him to go right on some things. But what the government is doing, using the FIA, is that they are actually threatened by the Godbars who criticize them on what they are doing bad. Instead of correcting themselves into a right way, they are just turning against them by closing their account, thinking maybe they'll keep quiet. But for me, that is the starting point, that now the Godbars should come out now to use their mouth, not their NGOs, because the NGOs are now stuck. But these people are still alive. They can come out and speak to the facts. For example, when we say the government has failed, let us be honest, Honorable. We should be honest and we say we have failed as a government, then we create a way forward. But not shutting people's mouths by closing their accounts. Yeah.
Well, I don't know whether Katesh is going to tell you now what failure you've instructed him to talk about. But you know about these matters, finance and so on, and you know also the detriment of making such announcements that we are closing this one, and you know, because you were you previously president of all customs and whatever, and these are some announcements like these in your previous life, you never used to like them.
Well, Oscar, first of all, let me deal with some statements here.
Okay, because I'll remind you so you don't forget.
Because, you know, my colleagues here mentioned some statements that, you know, authoritarian regimes fear people, power belongs to the people, government has failed. If you are talking about the NRM government, this is a government that has been democratically elected with a substantive percentage. So if you say power belongs to the people, yes, the people have exercised their right to put government in place. And this government has a responsibility to protect Ugandans. That's number one. Number two, the question is, in February 2024, Uganda was removed from the Financial Action Task Force grey list. This is a task force that is globally leading on matters of anti-money laundering, counter-terrorism, financing, etc. FIA, which everybody is attacking here, unfortunately they are not here to defend themselves, but they are an institution that is mandated to actually look at the financial transactions, and if there are any suspicious financial transactions, they have a mandate to take action. I am made to understand that this action has been taken on many occasions, not necessarily NGOs, but even if it is you, Oscar, if you received $300,000 on your account today, I am sure that if you go to withdraw, the bank will...
Those are good examples to use with me.
Yes. Yeah,
how much was it?
I know you are.
300,000.
I know you have the capacity. So, the banks will definitely require you... Yes, without any justice, they will ask you to declare the source. So this one is obvious. The only difference here is that these NGOs, you know, they have a club, so they've just come out. But if you ask FIA how many people's accounts have been frozen, I'm sure there will be many. Now the question is, why have they closed their accounts? In my opinion, we have an NGO board, we have FIA. If they are following up suspicious transactions that perhaps the government, which Godba calls regime, and I think Godba, you also may need to change the language.
But a regime is a regime.
You know, this issue can only be fixed. This conflict, like Raymond talks about it, can only be fixed through dialogue and engagement. Because the government will also ask that whom do these NGOs account to?
I can explain that.
Who is overseeing the activities? Who audits them? What is their mandate? Because you claim you are mandated on behalf of citizens, etc. But okay, so
I am a citizen.
So whom do you account to? Who is your auditor general? Okay. If you get the money and misuse it or use it to threaten the state, should the government just
like start a rebel movement or what?
Okay, because we have seen when the president of the US closed one of the organizations, I think a lot of revelations came out. So before we condemn government, we should be able to ask ourselves, because we are not privy to the transactions, suspicious transactions, which FIA could be interested in, that dropped on the NGO's account. So without that information, I cannot understand why. But my view is that the FIA and the NGO board should have dialogue with the NGOs, and you should be able to sit and see how to resolve this conflict. Because if you say you should not be touched, you are representing the citizens. The citizens did not vote any NGO to represent them. The citizens voted government in power to protect them. So if I am government and I'm seeing billions of shillings dropping, and there is no source described, there is no activity that is
you're talking like Rosoke here.
There is no activity. Your activities are not known. So, in fact, back to Oscar's question, it is unfair for many people, young people who are employed in these NGOs, because you, the leaders of NGOs, you have the responsibility. Because, Godba, if you have been in the NGO world for a long time, and you've done a lot of good work. The oil and gas is a good example. There are many positives which have been done by the NGOs. But I think the conflict is now when it turns into activism and borders on a threat. Because in our neighborhood here, I was in the neighborhood here, when these young people started talking, someone advised the government that these Gen Zs have a problem, but you need to listen to them and have dialogue. And someone in government dismissed them as TikTokers. And eventually you saw what happened in Kenya. So on our side as government, we have to be responsible to engage the citizen because we have the mandate. But also these NGOs, they must know that they are operating in an environment where government must exercise control and oversight on their activities. Because
thank you.
The government will ask whom do you account to? And for you to put so many young people who are employed in a dilemma of unemployment because perhaps you have taken a hardline position not to engage government or dialogue. Now the monkey goes on government. The government is seen as if it has created employment. So many young people.
Stop for a break.
We need to have dialogue to resolve this conflict amicably so that NGOs can flourish and government feels safe and society.
Today, Katesh, I think we have 3 lawyers in the studio. I've added you as the 4th lawyer because sometimes I've not worked out what you have said. But now you are Counsel Katesh. Welcome back from the break. We are getting to the end of the Capital Gang. We have Lydia on microphone on the FIA and NGO frozen accounts.
For me, the bottom line is that you cannot work with suspicion against each other. There is a lot of suspicion. The big elephant in the room is suspicion between the NGO community and government. So you may say FIA, you may say what, but the issue is you must deal with the suspicion. Government is not convinced that the NGO sector augments the efforts of government. That's what I read. There is a strong feeling, and they try to give a narrative with evidence that the funding is not in good faith. I've given the summary. They get funding from people who are not friends of government. In other countries where I've been, Oscar, that I've been able to work outside Uganda, during the budget cycle, like the ones which the Kateshis are doing now, the budget of the NGOs is tabled to augment the budget of the country. So these Kateshis will have a budget of 72 trillion in the financial year, but there will be a provision of NGOs contribution. Where is their contribution for this financial year? They are going to get money from supporters or donors. Maybe they've said 70 billion. Okay, let's use 70 billion, but it must be factored into the budget. And then, given the activities, whether it is the development budget or the other budget is what?
Operations, whatever, give it an
or recurrent yes. or development, who see where the NGO people are, because these are Ugandans. So where is their contribution in the national development? It should be aligned to the budget cycle. Then accountability can be talked about. So, but now they are two parallel people. Actually, there is duplication. That's part of the suspicion that you sit in Parliament and you say in this financial year, including money for ideological mobilization. So this financial year and money for ideological orientation. So during this financial year,
PR training.
So you say this financial year the budget is 72 trillion and it's broken down, but the NGOs are busy in Uganda. So what are they doing? So you must. They are also doing ideological disorientation. The one of Uganda is doing ideological orientation. The one of NGOs is doing ideological disorientation and activism. So, Godiba, for me, I think that the debate is this big elephant in the middle of the room, where some of you are touching the tail, others are touching the trunk, is that the government of Uganda is asking to remove suspicion. But even you people, you don't want to work with the government because you want to be in check without them knowing. So that's why you have people like Katasha asking, where did you derive your power from? For us, we derived our power from the vote of the people. But at the end of the day, civil society is an important space in any country. But relationships matter, and you can also not be there.
Especially registered civil society.
You cannot also be there unguarded. We don't know where you end. Some of you, I'm told today that you have like to the tune of 70 billion. Now, wow. 70 billion, whom are you accounting? So, how does that money enter?
But Lydia,
it can be disruptive to any country.
You made a very good
You heard about the 70. People are saying, hey, Godiba, your face doesn't look like 70 billion. People are saying, it's a debate here. Yes, Oscar.
He doesn't have a visigo of 70
billion. She should be.
But Lydia,
it should confuse you, Godiba. You should have even changed maybe your skin. Yes?
I should tell you, and this is something Katesh may respond to. The Cheyo money coming in, it comes from the Middle East. Right now, the taps are not coming in. Then the US, Europe, that's significant money. People build houses. And you're right. Is that included in the budget as money coming into Uganda?
Remittances are always pronounced in our budget. Remittances, they are called remittances.
Yeah, to the GDP.
Yes, it is.
They are captured in the budget.
They are captured, and it's a big debate.
No, it is. But you see, but the remittances are for Ugandans working abroad, sending money here. What we are asking is the money you receive as NGOs. The suspicion that my sister here is talking about is, what are the activities? What is the objective? How does it intertwine with the government policy?
A budget must be aligned to activities, worker plan. Where are your worker plans?
Who is your auditor general? Who is your auditor general?
Media's time. Katesh, you can stop it.
The questions on the floor is that where is your worker plan? What are you feeding into? The government of Uganda is feeding into the fourth national development plan. It has a budget cycle. It has the activities to be funded. The priorities are aligned. They even did have what they call unfunded priorities. Now, for the civil society, where are your funded priorities? Unfunded priorities, what are the interests of the funders? I think these are the questions you must answer. But you may not, because NGOs are also non-governmental, they are civil society, but an important component of government. There must be a relationship. What is the role of the NGO board?
That's what I want to explain.
The role of the NGO board actually, I think, supposed to be able to create the relationship. But if that NGO board is not doing their work, that's why you suffer.
So
it looks like the NGO board is supposed to be, because the NGO board and the Ministry of Internal Affairs, right? It should be the link between civil regulation, activities. But now when you begin hearing 70 billion and the NGO board is not talking.
Thank you, Lydia. So just quick, because we want to make quick comments. Let's have Raymond, Kakura, and then Godba. But this is something I've remembered. Closer to election time, even Cheyo money is difficult to send. They have blockings on, is it on Wave and others? So this, when you say suspicion, it is this is a big topic. I don't know in your journalistic skills you've ever encountered that.
I worry that government is leaving the art of government and choosing control. This morning I woke up with money on my account. I'm sure Katesh also woke up with money on his account. No. We didn't report to the local police to say I am going to the Capital Gang and I am going to buy a coffee and I might pass on.
You could point us in the direction of where the money came to your account, that's what we get control, as well.
That's what control achieves.
Yes.
But if you have a national law, and I don't like the impression that's been created that NGOs do not have authorities that govern them. First of all, I see every end of the year we submit all our returns to the NGO Bureau. We are perpetual payers of URA. We pay taxes. We are perpetual payers of NSSF. In Chira, where I operate, I also pay for the municipal council fees. So the illusion being created is of control rather than of government. If there already exists a national law, and if anyone is wary of what is happening in a building, the Uganda police has the mandate to write and say, you are in this building, we suspect some activity might be criminal happening. Can we come and pay you a visit? And you're welcome to come and pay a visit. But the worry again is that some of the work, or most of the work that NGOs do, actually is work that government should perpetually have been doing. The investigations we do, for example, at the Institute have been discussed in Parliament, whether it's Zoka, whether it's Ugandans being beaten in the Middle East, sexual harassment at Mackay University. All of those are that work that government should have perpetually been doing. So if government chooses to go for control, that's a difficult route, because after you close the NGOs, then you're going to close. There's a company in this town called Juma, which opens with 1.4 trillion every day. They're the ones behind the more cash. Are you also going to ask them, where does this money go? Next thing, you won't go for the banks. then you will have to go for the churches. Then after that, you will start asking Katesh to register the LC1, his agenda for the day before he leaves the home, so that we know fully
for his tourism companies. Kakuru, very quickly, you wanted to add?
Yes, I think for me the biggest is what the police is doing. I think they are eating our money for nothing, especially the investigations department, where they just act on rumors and they take actions instead of engaging with these organizations. For example, they ought to have first summoned the organizations to explain themselves on where they are getting money from and what they are using it for. But they first close their accounts and then send them letters of why they are closing accounts. Then they want to summon them after. I think that is, to me, deliberate to maybe close off on what they are doing. But these NGOs are helping government much, because they try to check in on how the government is operating. If they are violating human rights, the NGOs will come out and help people violated and what. Going forward, I think for me, the intelligence should be just scrapped off, and we get new people in the seats who can actually take time to find out, investigate, and then come with reports that can criminalize people who are criminals. I don't support criminals, but I don't want people to be judged without being heard. Yeah.
As Godba comes in, Chris Nkwasiwe agrees with Magela Peter Guayaka, says all NGOs have their permits issued by the NGO Bureau against work plans and budgets. They report on an annual basis to the Bureau. Several reports, including annual reports, source of funding, staffing, activities, and how that aligns to the NDP. So, Goodbye is saying they actually have this information.
No, you're actually listening to Dixon and Lydia. It scares me. You know, the kind of the way they are almost projecting like they are uninformed on very, very basic things that rate NGOs. So I'm even thinking.
Uninformed, as if they don't know.
Yeah, as if they don't know. No, because for me it means that even the guys who are making a decision that we are seeing actually have the same mindset. Yeah, sure. Because both Lydia and Katesh are very clever people. And they are, yeah, they're very clever. They are above average. Yeah. So, but look, so Dixon, you got by as the work you do. Whom are you accounted to? For you are not elected. You are what? I keep on trying to explain to people that we are citizens. The work that I do, the things I do, I don't do them because I work with Greece. I do them because I'm a citizen. And Greece is only a platform. So in other words, if you close it today, tomorrow I can create another organization called The Tree and still work because I'm a citizen. That's how I work. So the state and the government have to deal with me as a citizen. I think that really needs to be clear, and at the risk of being explanatory, because I think there was someone who said I am not the one who can explain things.
In fact,
yeah. But secondly, secondly, I need to add on what Chris and Peter have said, that the reporting mechanisms for NGOs are so methodical, and the NGOs work to comply in a way that you can't believe it. So the guy who sits at the NGO bureau and receives these reports that cover your work plan, that cover your funding sources, that include your audited accounts, that cannot be the same guy who sits there and then say, we have cancelled your permit. So behind that guy is the guy I am saying, behind that guy, there is a guy called Regime who is using this guy, because these guys at the NGO bureau, these are professional public servants. Without this power and authority that comes from the rear, these guys know what we do. By the way, I should also mention that you guys, you run accounts. I know that I have even been asked by a bank to explain a disbursement of $20,000. Now, I don't consider $20,000. I don't consider $20,000 to be such a big money that can destabilize a government. But money comes into your account, and the bank is saying we need documentation. So even this grant money, because the grant money is normally are more substantial, before they credit the money on your account, you have to take the grant agreement, you take the project proposal. Man, people should understand what we go through to be able to do even the work that we are doing.
Okay, thank you, Godba.
I need to...
Thank you.
Okay,
we have
all right, no problem.
10 minutes left, and I want Kakuru to start the 10 minutes, because he's the one who is very sporty looking. Sometimes Katesh comes in a golf jersey, but today it doesn't look like he's going to
the
go.
guy's on police board.
You know the news that Morocco was awarded the AFCON trophy, and I think it caught on in Uganda because we are going to host AFCON soon.
Yes.
So phone calls are not only in Uganda.
They're everywhere. Well, I've been supporting football for, I think, since I was young. Up to now, I still follow up. But what the CAF did, I don't. Up to now, it has not sunk into my head, because the football was there, and Senegal clearly won the game. They got their trophy. Now sitting in a boardroom, and now cancelling one's victory for Morocco. I don't know. Maybe that's why. That's what they call Gambanogu. Maybe it was. Maybe that one was led by our EC chair.
And you have said it in the correct accent of Gambanogu.
Yeah, but well, I think it is taking us back as football lovers, because now we are seeing incidences where a board they sit in a boardroom and decide who should win, like we are doing in our politics here in Uganda. If Senegal won and they were awarded the trophy, I don't know what mechanisms this board used to now change their victory. And if I was a Moroccan now, I wouldn't be happy at all. I saw some players.
Apparently, they are happy.
No, I saw some players even denouncing the victory because it is a theft in broad daylight. Broad daylight. And it is unfortunate for us as football lovers.
Katesh, can it happen in golf?
Well,
because some people are claiming Maradona's hand of God.
No. The difference
that should be recalled as well.
The difference in golf is that the decisions are largely
made on the turf.
The fans are unlikely to interfere in the actions on the field, because on the pitch, and also it's largely an individual game where it's your hand, your body, and your clubs. But soccer is a sport that evokes a lot of emotions. obviously what happened, but the decision was made at that time, and the match continued and it ended. So a trophy is won on the pitch. It's not won in a boardroom. So clearly, I also think that if I was a Moroccan, I don't think I would be very happy because I saw a statement that the Moroccan Football Association tried to issue to say, you see, they are trying to be on the fence, like we were appealing, but we did not actually want. So
they wanted to, as we say in Uganda, to throw in a stone.
Yes, but what has happened also, it's likely to affect actually the African football in terms of the relations, because right now there are so many people who are imprisoned in Morocco. Like my brother here, but for them they are not on bail. And I heard that after this decision, the courts were supposed to deliver a judgment or something, so they halted it, and it is evoking a lot of emotions, especially in the surrounding countries of the black Africans. So I think that perhaps this may become a foreign relations issue more than a sports issue between the two countries, and they need to dialogue.
Raymond, is it true that a Real Madrid player, Moroccan Hakimi, has said no, he rejects the trophy?
Well, we've seen statements attributed to him. Whether they are true is a secondary matter. But Oscar, I watched the entire game. There was a contentious award of a penalty, and the Senegalese players marched off the pitch. If the game should have ended at that point, if CAF says that, they forfeited the game at that point, then the game should have ended at that point. In criminal law, the classes used to tell us if you become an accessory after the fact, then you're part of the crime too. So Morocco allowed Senegalese players to come back. The referee allowed the game to go on. Morocco took their penalty, failed to convert their penalty, and Senegal scored after the penalty. So now the question is, everything that we enjoyed after the Senegalese came back, is CAF is saying that's an illegality, really. But Oscar, there's been some contention between North Africa and the rest of Africa on participation in this. And like Katesha said, it is an international relations matter. Many North African countries consider themselves Arab countries, and therefore we've always had trouble in discussing them in that manner. But also I have seen the Senegalese have been bright enough. They've taken the AFCON trophy to the Senegalese military base. So now retrieving the trophy requires a military effort.
If it is true.
And I know a military that helps with such things. So if they reach out to me, I can pass on a contact.
I would also be able to read to help.
Do you follow football? Did you watch that match?
No, so that's where I really have an issue with football, because I grew up playing soccer. The Carrere one, no? The one of the fiber, whatever. I always tell the story that I am the one who invented the multi-layered soccer balls, just to make sure that it can last you like for 2 hours. So later, when I grew up, and I am very, very passionate about certain things Ugandan, so the Ugandan soccer disappointed me. And I have said I will wait until when Ugandan soccer teams are able to compete at the level I want to reignite my passion about soccer. So
just
soccer cannot support. Some of us are perpetual Arsenal fans.
No, I don't have any relationship with those guys. They don't know me. I don't know them. I am waiting for Uganda.
AFCON. Uganda will shine in AFCON.
Yeah, that's what I'm waiting for. But otherwise, nobody soccer watches me when I'm in my living room.
Lydia, there's an assertion, some people complaining, it is because CAF had no venue for the women's AFCON, and because Morocco had been disappointed and said, no, we shall not host them. So it is the women's tournament. It might be announced anytime soon that it will take place in Morocco. So there was a bit of politics in the whole thing.
I want to agree with the public relation or diplomacy angle of this debate, because normally our brothers from the north, even at the AU, they sometimes play superior. Maybe because they have some more resources, or they are more aggressive. They want to play superior, and they wouldn't want to be seen that they can they can lose to other African member states. So it has rolled into soccer. But I was laughing at what Godba was saying. You know, soccer is a sport. It's a sport. For me, it doesn't matter who is playing. If you look at the rules of the game and the scores, that's what should take you.
Like
not because of your fiber goal, your fiber ball. Because now you are telling me that because in your village you take Muramba, there are these local drinks. So you don't look at a whiskey because the brand was not made in your village in Ntungamo. A brand is a brand. It doesn't matter where it is made. So soccer, I think people look so much at the sport. So, and the rules of the sport and the numbers. Is number 1, number 7, who is playing which defense. Those are the principles of the game. You don't want to look at the club. But you see, the club make the sport more superior because they've trained and have upped the game. But the principle, it can come down to Ntungamo field. If you have trained and leveled the field, then you get such players. So it does not say that for me now I'm Uganda, I need to look at the Ugandan brand. The Ugandan brand might be inferior, but given time,
it may grow.
And this goes to Oscar's question. Oscar, we have not grown standards of our sports sector in Uganda, including the fields. But if we are now talking about being participating in AFCON, maybe we'll get there. Everything in Uganda had run down, including the people. And where I've worked before, in formation of failed states, you find that it's much easier to rebuild a hotel. I'm looking at Katesia, or to rebuild a lodge or whatever. But building people,
that is my
building people from a broken state, it can take you generations. And therefore, let's not beat ourselves too much. I think we are on the right path. Like we are building ourselves as people, and then the infrastructure.
Thank you.
Now, if you can talk about the stadium in Hoima, there's one coming up, the real one in Akibo in Lira. It's coming up an airport, international airport coming up in Nyacharara. We'll get there, but building people.
Council Kakuru Tumsime, most welcome for your maiden capital gang. Thank you so much. Thank you, gangsters of the day, Honorable Katesh, Honorable Anyoto. Raymond Majuni, Godba. We happy Eid to all our Muslim fraternity. Happy Eid to them. I'd like.
There was the anniversary of our late brother Jacob Bolanya, but even the MZ local died yesterday, Nathan. So we stand with the family and the Omoro community.
So next on the Capital Radio is Rough Cuts by DJ Nyoe. I am Oscar Semoyam Soke, and I shall see you next week. Oops, I must also say thank you to Star Cafe as well for powering the gang. Kakuru has behaved well. His conduct was really, really good.
Star Cafe.
Yes. Thank you.